Thank you very much for watching this video. Before we begin, I wanted to include a disclaimer, as I include in my about section as well as in the description of this video. All of my readings are for entertainment purposes only. They are never, ever meant to diagnose, treat, or otherwise have any influence upon your own medical issues or situations that you may have. I always encourage everyone to make their own sound decisions, including legal matters, financial matters, and every other matter in your own life. These are for entertainment purposes only. As these are general tea leaf readings, again, it makes sense, therefore, that some of this information will resonate with you and some of it may not. You may find that some applies and some doesn't. That is completely normal and to be expected, as these are general tea leaf readings. So again, take what you will and leave what you don't, and simply enjoy your reading and hope that you find it informative and insightful. Thank you. Hi everyone and welcome back. My name is Sarah, and yes, I am a coffee drinking tea leaf reader. Hi, how are you doing today? I'm recording this actually on Wednesday, July the 5th. Belated Happy Canada Day, belated Happy Independence Day. I know it's Wednesday. I know. It was nonstop and long weekend and busyness and just general delays. But anyway, I'm recording this today and hoping to get this uploaded for you by tomorrow, which is going to be Thursday, July the 6th, 2023. And this is a general bi-weekly tea leaf reading for the weeks of July the 3rd, so this week, as well as for next week. So July the 3rd and the 10th of this year, 2023. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the leaves ready and see what's in store for the next 2 weeks. And as always, I will include pictures of this tea leaf reading at the end of this video. These are the tea leaves. So let's go ahead and see what the universe would like us to know for the next 2 weeks. Starting on Monday, it looks as though this week began with 5 scenarios, 5 events or situations which were fairly significant in and of themselves. One of those was the most significant of those, and those were situations where things were either calm and clear and quiet and we were happy with that, and or we wanted things to get moving a little bit more. Overall, it appears as though there are 2 events or situations, main ones, being shown for the next 2 weeks. There is one main one that is more important or more significant, significant rather, than the other. But both are being present. So in other words, there's one main one slightly less important one, but still 2 main events or situations which are of note, which are still of significance, which are still of importance. The larger of the 2 is definitely, well, again, more important or more significant. It essentially looks like it began just after this week started, so maybe even yesterday or maybe even today, being Wednesday. Overall, this event does appear as though there's a lot of conversations, thinking, discussions, things still up in the air, and that does take place near the beginning of that event. So again, the beginning approximately of this week, and that does continue on for the next, well, few days, certainly until I would say maybe even the end of this week. But generally speaking, we know where we stand and yet we don't. So in other words, I have used this example before. We get a letter of confirmation that we are going into university or college. We know we're going on a set date, but there's a lot of unknowns that come with that day of moving, books, teachers, supplies, what do we need, when do we need to buy them, along those lines. So again, we know and yet we don't know. And there really is a very much of a fair, clear balance between us knowing where we stand and the surprises at the same time, as well as thinking and talking and discussions. So I would say there's more of us knowing where we stand and yet we don't know, but there's a lot of conversations, things up in the air throughout the next 2 weeks for that scenario. There's 2 different parts or aspects to this one main event. Yes, there's 2 of them, but this one main event itself, there's 2 parts to it, essentially. It begins with a lot of thinking and talking, this smaller section, but it does not last long. It's very much short term, maybe last a day or 2, at most 3. However, it does lead further into the base and further, as the next 2 weeks unfold, it looks like it actually does combine with this main event later on next week. So I would say by the middle of next week to the end of next week, we're going to really know more of what that is referencing. So it starts off Monday or Tuesday of this week. Does not appear significant in and of itself at all, very much. And however, as next week begins to conclude, that's when we see how it actually relates to that scenario at that time as of now. Now, generally speaking, these two different events or situations, the two main ones that I mentioned, they are, well, you can see it in the tea leaves, they are appearing essentially opposite from one another. There as well as here. There's two different scenarios of importance occurring during the next 2 weeks, and they are related. They do not appear to be related at the time. They actually are. And in this scenario, I would say they do become related again towards the end of next week, as well as that smaller event or scenario that I just mentioned relates, results, concludes, however you want to say it, with the main event or scenario towards the latter part of next week. Let's take a look at this main event or scenario and see what's involved with this. There's very much a small or minor conclusion that takes place that precedes all of this. However, it's very, very small. However, it actually does result in everything else taking place. There's a lot of thinking and talking taking place at the beginning of this entire scenario. Side event, briefly, there's a person, place, or thing with the letter S that is involved. This involves a creative project of some kind. Fast-paced, and there's reassurance that is being indicated from the universe, and there's two parts to it. There's two different aspects, parts to that creative project. There even may be someone involved with the letter I, J, 5, and C, so lots of letters. Possibly the number 3, not a numerologist, so please take that for what you will. 3 involved in some way, shape, or form. Helpful individuals are present, and close communication between two individuals, part of that whole scenario. Letter E as well, and L. Gosh, there's a lot of letters in that, isn't there? There's a small reminder here for perspective or perception. There's also stability, intellect. Someone actually may be thinking of moving, so that is related to this whole scenario. Reassurance. Someone who is Scorpio or the qualities of that sign are present. Again, we have a small conclusion. That involves a partnership of some kind. And again, there may be a conclusion that involves real estate or looking for a new place or property, something along those lines. A new opportunity, going for what you want to have. Some kind of creativity, a new creative project, working on something new, something that's creative. And I keep seeing references to that. And specifically in this individual case, scenario, there's a creative project that has two different parts to it, something to that effect. Again, a time of new beginnings, new opportunities, new beginnings. Again, using your intellect, but there's some kind of, yes, although there are conclusions at the beginning of this whole scenario, we do have new beginnings as well. So whatever this is regarding, conclusions, yes, but new beginnings. It looks good. Looks interesting. And again, a lot of thinking and talking. Now, let's move to the actual main part of this main event. One aspect of it looks like it begins very quickly, a lot of thinking and talking, things are involved. Other than that, there may be 4 individual scenarios where we sort of feel like, okay, like these things are happening, but what's next? And then very soon after that, everything starts to happen. It's almost like a trickling effect, a little bit, and then everything all at once. It's very positive. There's a happy face. We're feeling good about everything. Messages, news, and or information is involved. There's also abundance and prosperity regarding, there's a great amount of unconditional love, support, loyalty, and commitment. And that specifically has an influence or connection with someone who is Aries and or Taurus. There's a lot of conversations regarding that whole scenario, a document that's involved. There are several small conclusions taking place at the beginning, or there were at the start of this week. There's just a lot of action, a lot of things taking place though too. Now, there actually may be some form of 2 conclusions regarding what I just said, that abundance and prosperity, that love, the paperwork, the Aries and or Taurus connection. There could, like I just said, there could very well have been 2 different conclusions regarding that. One larger, one smaller. Change, transformation, new beginnings regarding two individuals, potentially. New creative projects, a new start. Unconditional love and support and loyalty and commitment are present. I keep saying it. Happiness, as well as unconventional stability. So something that's just stable but different and unique. And there was happiness around that at the beginning of this week. In this situation, there was a small respite, a small time where in this whole event where we were able to just take a few breaths at the beginning of the week, and then everything else happened after that. Again, quite happy with the way that things were unfolding. Action, speed, momentum, things taking place rather quickly. Someone who is potentially even a fire sign, as well as reassurance regarding that situation. Person, likely with the letter A in their name, as well as another helpful individual, likely a woman involved. But also freedom of movement, not being held back, going for whatever it is that you want to have. Happiness, joyousness, celebrations, good times, good things taking place. The number 4, maybe even the number 1-4. So 1-4, 14, something along those lines. I keep seeing the letter I involved. Now, there also may have been someone who is Cancerian involved in that situation and may also have had a letter I in their name. And there was a lot of good things that they were receiving. Now, you could also say that maybe that's referring some the qualities of that sign. So love, family, house, home, intuition, healing, things along those lines. Again, this feeling of almost reciprocity and cooperation, working with other people, joyousness and happiness, quite literally dancing, and open communication between two people specifically. The letters P and X, or 10, like 10 and X. Two people communicating as well in another instance. Maybe not clearly though. So maybe some kind of like trying to communicate, not quite ready to communicate, something to that effect. But there was communication between those two. And again, things happening quickly, things taking place fast, things moving, things taking place, action, momentum. And there's some connection with houses. I'm seeing another house here. And it looks like this was actually happening around now, Tuesday or Wednesday or so of this week. Speaking of moving, I would say, if this was a private reading for you, and I was reading for you, I would say it's likely not ready to happen yet, but it's well on the way. So that's what I would say. It's well forming. But there's a lot of thinking and talking regarding that situation specifically. New changes, new creative projects, working with different people. Change, positive change, using your intellect. Receiving good things, messages, news, and or information, likely regarding the house and or home, but it's like you're sending something. We were sending messages rather as opposed to likely receiving them. Number 3, again, not a numerologist, but so take that for what you will. New opportunity that was being contemplated, that was been involving everything that I've just been saying. Something new, a new creative project, a new opportunity. It's related to that. Really going for what you want to have, not being held back, dancing, celebrations. That helps to relate to, that helps to connect to this new idea that's being contemplated. Person, place, or thing with the letters H and or I involved. But again, I keep seeing 2 different people now. Whether these are the same people repeatedly or not, I don't know. However, 2 people openly communicating, joyousness, happiness, dancing, celebrations, things along those lines. And that involves specifically a beautiful partnership that is beautifully forming right now. As of now, it's still in the forming stages. So at this moment in time, it's forming, but it looks really good. There's likely also the letters C and or E involved. Maybe the letter D, like Diego, like dog, but likely C and E. Abundance and prosperity. Going for what you want to have, not being held back. Action, momentum. Maybe a Sagittarius connection taking place like right about now. The life force, vitality. Aries and or Taurus connection, yet again. Stability. Letter W involved, likely a person who was quite wise. Again, messages, news, and or information about the home and or family. Involves the letter E twice. Something that is unknown, but positive. A little surprise that we are receiving. Now, this actually may be in reference to someone, likely a male. It's actually related to a surprise that involves working with multiple people and a small situation of abundance and prosperity. Now, what that is exactly, of course, I don't know. And this is a general tea leaf reading. So again, always take what you will and leave what you don't with every reading that I do. But if some form of abundance and prosperity, it's almost like dominoes. One leads to the next, that leads to the next, that goes to the next. It's that kind of scenario. But that momentum that I just mentioned a few moments ago, about going for what you want to have, that Sagittarius connection is related or leads to this new smaller abundance and prosperity that I just mentioned. Again, there's a lot of smaller surprises involved, but a lot of helpful people. Letter J, likely a person. Taking time out for your own self-care. I probably won't say it again. Well, I probably will, but for the not to sound repetitive, many helpful people involved. But again, really taking time out for our own self-care. Happiness, giddiness, almost being childlike, having fun, celebrating. Letter F, unconditional love, support, loyalty, and commitment. So again, letters are people, places, or things. Action and momentum. Again, going for what you want to have, not being held back, going for what you want. Keep saying it. Keep saying it. That also is related to an event or a small scenario aspect of three people or three parties communicating with each other. And there's a lot of momentum with that. It involves actually 2 new opportunities that are beginning as well as a conclusion. But it looks positive, looks stable. New creative projects, yet again. Working with many different people. Letter W. Number 4, L, is someone who is very balanced, maybe even Libran. Reading, writing, taking a course, teaching a course, writing a book, something along those lines. Learning, wisdom, knowledge, acquiring wisdom or knowledge. At this point in time, we're looking at approximately the mid to the end of next week. 3 notable surprises. They lead into the base. Now let's see what else we can see here. Again, it's going for what you want to have, not being held back. Action, momentum, happiness. If you're thinking of moving, from what I'm seeing here, by the end of next week, it looks very promising. And there's a partnership that is associated with that. That involves 3 people specifically. One that's still forming. The other one is, there's a 4th that's really not too significant. But there's messages, news, and or information related to that you're receiving regarding that. Looks good. Abundance and prosperity, a partnership again of some kind. Action, momentum, receiving communication, multiple communications, messages. Creative projects, new creative beginnings. Making, and at that point in time, now we're leading into the base. Whatever this is referring to, it's something exceptionally good. We definitely have a partnership that's being referred to here. Now, that could also be referencing some kind of sacred, spiritual, energetic, positive message or partnership. We have an infinity sign sideways. So really a matter of perception or perspective with that. However, there may even be 2 different properties that are involved, 2 different locations in some way. One is more obvious than the other. However, both are present. The other half of this scenario at this overall event at this time, end of next week, there's really like 60% of it roughly is surprises and things taking place. The other, say 40% or 30% approximately, a lot of thinking and talking. And that involves a lot of unconditional love, support, loyalty, and commitment, knowing that you're not alone. I don't believe that we are alone anyway. I think we have a lot of help, divine help around us at any time, at all times. But just a nice reminder that we have a lot of assistance around us, a lot of help around us at that time specifically. It's a good situation. Letter M, letter U, thinking and talking. Letter W, communication, many people communicating. Abundance and prosperity, messages, news, and or information coming regarding this abundance and prosperity that is related to one individual specifically, who may even be a fire sign. There's 3 different aspects or pieces of news, actually 4 of them, one not obvious, occurring at that time. And it's taking place quickly. It's fast paced. It's fast moving. We're happy with that scenario, generally speaking, of course. Again, action, movement, not being held back, going for whatever it is that you want to have. A lot of thinking and talking. Letter S again. letter M again, E again, C, X, second time, interesting. Now X is also like the flag of Scotland, like the Saltire, so that may have some significance to some of you watching. There's like four actually different scenarios, and they take place during next week, and they are all related to one specific event or scenario that we're not supposed to know about. It's a surprise, and it all leads further into the end of next week, heading into the following week, like the end of next weekend, next week, next weekend, heading into the following week. Looks to be a very positive scenario. Open communication, that involves some kind of new opportunity. Again, there's open communication regarding this. One woman specifically, I would say, is almost like offering us an opportunity, or is present in some ways, offering something. She's helpful, she's positive. And there's a new opportunity regarding that, as well as going for what you want to have. Complete protection, reassurance is being indicated. Reassurance and protection are being indicated. Letter E again. And then we're into the end of next week. Now, the smaller event or scenario that I mentioned before, that is sort of running parallel to this main event, it sort of begins quite quietly. Doesn't appear to be very significant, rather, as the week begins. However, I would say approximately the start of next week, that's when we begin to see things really take form with that, and it becomes a bit larger and more significant, but still in comparison to the main event or scenario that we just looked at, there's a lot more thinking and talking, things more up in the air, generally speaking. There is one part of it, however, that involves a significant creative project, a new beginning, a new opportunity of some kind, making new things. There's many different aspects involved with that. Again, we know where we stand, and yet we don't at the same time. Unconventional stability, as well as new ideas, thinking of new things. We're happy with that. Number 3, involved in some way. And the letter W as well. It does lead, like I said, into end of next week, heading into the weekend and the next week. Whatever this is, it's very significant. There's a lot of surprises with this. We're just not supposed to know what this is, but I'm actually very clearly, can't talk, very excited about this. Whatever it is going to be very interesting, I think. I'm very curious to see what this is. It does involve, there's abundance and prosperity. We see something that's abundant and prosperous, has likely maybe even the letter E involved, number 3, letter J, and maybe even a conclusion, letter H, possibly K, W, a partnership as well. Working with a few people, I would say at most 5, well, maybe even 7 people, depending on how you want to perceive it. And that leads into this exciting surprise. We have the number 3, helpful people. Almost like we're being nurtured. There's a form of nurturing, taking care of, additional love and support, loyalty and commitment, guardianship, protection that has been present, that we keep seeing throughout this main event that we just looked at, is also present here in the smaller event too. Real happiness, though, almost like a cheeky happy, but again, a real matter of perspective, perception, and glass half full versus glass half empty way of thinking. And then we're heading into the base, but again, this is all to do with a lot of a very magical, unique scenario. Don't know what this is, but there's a mermaid there, so for me that just means it's a very interesting, exciting, happy, unique situation. There is reassurance that's regarding this that's being shown, letter W, and then at that point, then we're into this very large and significant, not insignificant, surprise. Combined, this whole surprise does again lead into the base, and it takes up most of the base. It covers most of the base, as you can see right here. We do have some respite. We do have some free time next weekend, heading into next week. But I would say to pace ourselves. this week, for the next 2 weeks. To get anything that we need to get done, use the time that we have to be productive, because when all of this takes place, it's going to be quite busy, quite almost like maybe a little bit chaotic, hectic, sporadic, a lot of things happening all at once. So again, just a small reminder to get anything that we need to get done now, so we don't have to do it later, so we can focus on whatever is taking place at a later time. Generally speaking, this whole surprise in the base does involve working with many different people. There's also a woman, likely a woman with a prominent nose. Letter S involved, so this lady likely has the letter S in her name, and the letter C twice and or E. Helpful people are definitely involved from what I'm seeing. Helpful, this divine help, this unconditional love, support, loyalty and commitment, protection, guardianship, companionship, love is present. Many helpful people, again, using our intellect, using our critical thinking skills. Some thinking and talking as well, conversations, thoughts, and words. However, mostly it's a lot of, again, surprises. We're not really meant to know, for the most part, what this is referring to. But new creative projects as well, creating new things. Letter J again, letter A, T, and 3, and C. Lots of letters. T again. There also may be someone who is Scorpio who is involved. So it's likely someone who is looking up to someone else, like a child looking at a parent, or someone looking at an authority figure, something to that effect. Goodness, there's so many helpful people involved in this whole scenario. I'm going to leave it there. It's going to be a crazy 2 weeks, especially next weekend, I would say, heading into next week. So I'm going to leave it there and going to go for a walk. So thank you so much again for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I love you so much. Thank you for all of your patience and understanding, and I hope that you enjoyed this tea leaf reading. Lots of love and take care. Bye-bye. And as promised, here are pictures of the tea leaves for this reading. As always, thank you so much again for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this tea leaf reading. If you have subscribed to this channel, thank you so much. And if you haven't, I would welcome your support. Maybe even ring that bell for future updates. Hit that like button and leave a comment in the comment section below. These all really help to grow this channel. Thank you again. See you soon.